Led Zeppelin's 1969 debut is a good introduction to the band with some really standout tracks. Almost every song employs killer riffs and features great vocals. However, this album does feature a small amount of filler. Having slightly padded or forgettable covers does not make a bad album, but it does show the band still had a little bit of experimentation to do before perfecting their craft. Perhaps they didn't have enough content because Led Zeppelin 2 was released less than a year later and they decided to put what little slack they had on here. Regardless, this does not really bring the album down, as it is still a very great classic. Good Times, Bad Times works quite well as an album opener. It is suitably heavy and has a great solo. It also has good lyrics and delivery, but it is overly short and doesn't feature the band's most innovative playing. This is a good start for the band, and one that introduces their style quite effectively. I do wish Good Times, Bad Times had been somewhat longer, since I feel like a couple of later tracks were out of their welcome a bit. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You is the real introduction to Led Zeppelin's core format. Long songs, epic riffs, slow sections with haunting vocals by Plant, followed by fast epic rocking sections. The guitar is omnipresent, brooding on the slow sections and bombastic on the faster parts. All you will ever need from Led Zeppelin is distilled into this song. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You is, going by the chronological track listing, the band's very first classic. You Shook Me is a pretty good blues song. While the song itself isn't bad per se, other than Jimmy Page, the band doesn't do much of interest on it. Plant doesn't do anything with his vocals that any of the contemporaries couldn't. The same thing applies to the organ and harmonica parts. Most decent 60s musicians had already done them much better. The only real thing of note here is the excellent guitar accompanying the vocals at the beginning, as well as the great solo later on. The ending of the song is also chronologically the first time that Jimmy Page's guitar does a back and forth with Robert Plant's vocals, which would work better on the next song, but here sounds a bit silly. 6 minutes of You Shook Me is about 2 minutes, albeit 2 very enjoyable minutes, too long. The drum solo with the awful stereo effect could have been cut, as could the ending part with the back and forth between vocal and guitar, which, in my opinion, would have been better saved as an effect with maximum impact on Dazed and Confused. You Shook Me is played very well, but its back half suffers from too much padding. Dazed and Confused is one of the best songs of the album. Great lyrics and delivery by Plant paint the picture of a man desperately trying and failing to resist the allure of a woman. The instrument playing on this song sounds almost gothic at times, which is a nice touch. Also of note is Robert Plant's calm response with Page's guitar works much better this time. While still silly in a way, it has an almost ghost-like quality to it that fits the gothic undertones of the music very well. On Your Time Is Gonna Come, Robert Plant sings the verses quite well, but on the chorus, over-the-top backing vocals are employed. I think this song would have been better solved by a solo vocal by Plant, or at least better backing vocals. The guitar has an almost southern rock feel, and is very well executed. The organ on the song is also somewhat melodramatic, but does complement the guitar quite well. Black Mountain Slide is an instrumental track, and a competent one at that. Page decides to indulge in the 60s love of vaguely Indian-sounding songs and incorporates a tabla drum, if I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. The whole thing is not long enough to be overblown, and is pretty fast and enjoyable. Communication Breakdown is a fast, catchy, but shorter song. I honestly wish it was longer, as it feels like it could have been a longer but faster-paced song like Whole Lotta Love. It is still, though, despite this, a very great song. I Can't Quit You Baby has better vocals from Plant than You Shook Me, but it still feels somewhat like filler. It has a pretty good set of lyrics, but it doesn't feel right here. The band tries to play in an exciting manner, and almost but not quite succeed. While it is shorter than the last cover, it is not really played or sung with enough pep to feel like it matters in the long run. I Can't Quit You Baby should have been cut to make Communication Breakdown a little bit longer. How Many More Times starts out surprisingly groovy before going back into a heavier instrumental breakdown and then coming back up for more groove. This song makes a fitting closer to an inconsistent but very good album, ending on a fairly high note, not quite the highest, but still very, very high. So, next we're going to look at the album cover. This sleeve design I think works very well. It shows the Zeppelin that Led Zeppelin's named after. It's a picture of the Hindenburg exploding, obviously. It's in this kind of inked, newspapery style, which I think looks very good here. The font you have kind of in an orangish, yellowish, that's also on the back cover. I think that looks pretty good, especially that veil. It's just a little bit of color, but without being overly over the top. But overall, it is pretty minimalistic in terms of like text and stuff over here. You do have the Atlantic label down here. It looks pretty good, I think. This album also doesn't have a printed liner, or at least the album's a circle liner, but it does have this pretty snazzy Atlantic liner. I only have a couple of these. I do think it's kind of nice that they try to do something different there. Anyways, for the back cover, I actually have to cover up this part down here by this thumb because that's someone's PO box that got sent this as a part of a like a record subscription service. It's a pretty nice thing to get for a record subscription service. That's why I had the rubber duck penguin covering this up earlier. It's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice picture of a band, although they all look pretty bored here. And the color of it does kind of make it look like they're like maybe like vaguely floating in like Kraft mac and cheese. Overall, it's pretty nice. I like the Led Zeppelin logo down there. Got just a little bit of text, and I do like how it puts each person's name with them, although I don't really understand why Robert Plant's name is in white, whereas the rest of those names are in black. But yeah, overall, and I like the Led Zeppelin font up there. Overall, I think it's a very nice looking sleeve. It's very minimalist, but it also really stands out with the contrast of the black and the white, and also the kind of this big melodramatic picture of the Hindenburg exploding. It really does look quite nice, and honestly, it does really stand out in, I think, any record collection. So, for the final reviews of the songs in the album, I give Good Times, Bad Times, 9 out of 10. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, 10 out of 10. You Shook Me, 7 out of 10. Dazed and Confused, 10 out of 10. Your Time Is Gonna Come, 7 out of 10. Black Mountain Slide, 7 out of 10. Communication Breakdown, 9 out of 10. I Can't Quit You Baby, 5 out of 10. How Many More Times, 8 out of 10. And overall, I give the album a 9 out of 10. It has some padding in places, but overall, it does manage to be really great. When it's at its best, which is most of the time, it is amazing. So yeah, if you liked this video, I would like to encourage you to comment below and to like and subscribe to my channel. I will be reviewing Led Zeppelin's other albums here in the near future, and also other albums by other artists, and I want to thank you all for watching. See you next time.